Good morning to you, and it's Friday. Welcome to Pen Vicarage. Lovely to see you. Hope you're well and cheerful. So glad you could join us for our Bible talk this morning. May I remind you what we've got on this weekend? We're back in church again. Hooray! In case you hadn't already realised. Let me remind you what we've got on. At St Bart's on 5:30 on Saturday evening. We've got a communion service. You're welcome to join us. Sunday morning, 8 o'clock, St Bart's. Holy Communion for the Book of Common Prayer. 10 o'clock Sunday morning from St Bart's, big service in church with hymns and things, and that service will be live streamed as well, and you're welcome to join us either in church or online at home, how you feel most comfortable. 11:45, there's a service at St Anne's. They have a live service there, and of course also there'll be a recorded service from there at 11:45. And St Bart's, 5:30 Sunday evening, there's going to be a live streamed night prayer, nice relaxing, peaceful, meditative service to end the day. Lots of service going on. We'd love to see you. And you know something, we'd be a much better church if you were there. And you're welcome to join us either online or in person. It will be great. Isn't it great, as I say, to be back in church together? Right, our reading for this morning. We have been working our way through the resurrection appearances in the Gospel of John. This is the last one this morning at the end of the Gospel. So after the resurrection, let me remind you what's happened so far. Early on the very first Easter Sunday morning, the disciples and Mary went to the tomb and they saw the empty tomb. Peter and John saw the empty tomb, but they didn't see Jesus. They went home. Mary Magdalene saw the empty tomb and she met Jesus thinking he's the gardener too. That happened first thing on the Sunday morning. Sunday evening, the disciples were gathered together in the room. The doors were locked and they hadn't got Thomas with them, and Jesus appeared to them then. And a week later, they met again in the Room. This time the doors were shut but not locked, and this time Thomas was with them. So that's that. A few weeks later, or some time later, Jesus appears to them again, this time up north, 100 miles north in Galilee, by the Sea of Tiberias, Sea of Galilee, call it what you like, and he appears to them then, and there's a miraculous shoal, a catch of fish, 153 fish, even though they caught nothing all night. And then there's a lovely scene when they come ashore, and Jesus cooks them breakfast on the beach. Lovely thing to think that. And the conversation goes something like this. John chapter 21, starting to read at verse 50. When they'd finished breakfast, Jesus said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" He said to him, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." Jesus said to him, "Feed my lambs." A second time he said to him, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" He said to him, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." Jesus said to him, "Tend my sheep." He said to him the third time, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" Peter felt hurt because he had said to him the third time, "Do you love me?" And he said to him, "Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you." Jesus said to him, "Feed my sheep. Very truly I tell you, when you were younger, you used to fasten your own belt and go wherever you wished. But when you grow old, you'll stretch out your hands, and someone else will fasten a belt around you and take you where you do not wish to go." He said this to indicate the kind of death by which he would glorify God. After this, he said to him, "Follow me." Peter turned and saw the disciple whom Jesus loved following them. He was the one who had reclined next to Jesus at the supper and had said, "Lord, who is it that's going to betray you?" When Peter saw him, he said to Jesus, "Lord, what about him?" Jesus said to him, "If it's my will that he remain until I come, what is that to you? Follow me." So the rumour spread in the community that the disciple would not die. Yet Jesus did not say to him he would not die, but, "If it's my will that he will remain until I come, what is that to you?" This is the disciple who is testifying these things and has written them, and we know that his testimony is true. There are many also other things that Jesus did. If every one of them were written down, I suppose the world itself could not contain the books that would be written. And this is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Well, Peter, Simon Peter. Love Peter, everyone does. He just goes straight with 2 feet, gets it right sometimes, gets it wrong sometimes, and so on. Now, put yourself in Peter's position for a minute when it comes to the resurrection of Jesus. As I said on Easter Sunday morning, for Peter, the resurrection must have been a bit of a double-edged sword. I explain to you why. On the one hand, he must have been, of course, delighted that his friend was alive and all that. It must have been great to see his friend again. He died and he came alive again. And Peter must have been, on one hand, very delighted that his friend was alive. But on the other hand, it's a bit of a complication as well, because let's not forget the night before Jesus died, Jesus had told Peter that before the cock crew, Peter would deny knowing him 3 times. And lo and behold, a few hours later, before the cock crew, Peter denied 3 times that he even knew Jesus. And then it's particularly poignant in Luke's gospel when he does it the 3rd time. The cock crows and somehow Jesus catches Peter's eye. And that's the last time Peter saw Jesus before he died. So you might say the last thing Peter did for Jesus before he died was let him down, denied that he even knew him. And you can imagine that for Peter, the resurrection, the fact that Jesus is alive again, means he's kind of got to face up to what had happened. He couldn't just brush it under the carpet, pretend it never happened, put that one to bed. He can't, because Jesus is alive. And I do wonder if every time Peter saw the resurrected Jesus, Peter must have wondered, I wonder if he's going to say something. And so he had this lovely picture. Jesus sits down with his disciples, having cooked them breakfast, and they have this, they've got full tummies now. And you can imagine Jesus saying to Peter, Simon, son of John. And Peter goes, yes. Almost like that. And then he asks him, noticeably, asks him 3 times, he says, do you love me? And each time Peter says, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. And the words change a bit, but essentially it means the same. And then the 3rd time, I guess the 3rd time, Peter actually gets a bit hurt this time, Do you like, yes, Lord, you know everything. You really know everything. You know that I love you. But the interesting thing is, I think, what Jesus does here, because Jesus knew where Peter was coming from. Jesus knew that his resurrection meant that Peter had to face up to what had happened. And yet Jesus loved Peter. And when we feel remorseful, we are loved with an unconditional love. And we can be ourselves because we are unconditionally loved. And so what Jesus does for Peter is lovely. He asks him 3 times, do you love me? And Peter's given the opportunity 3 times to say, Lord, you know that I love you. So notice the 3 times that he denied knowing Jesus is now cancelled out, you might say, because Peter has 3 times the opportunity to say, yes, Lord, I know that I love you. So for the 3 times he denied Jesus, he gets the opportunity 3 times to affirm Jesus and state his faith in him. And then Jesus, beautifully actually, to demonstrate that Peter is forgiven, that he is still truly loved, he gives him a purpose. Feed my sheep. Tend my flock. Look after my people. I'm trusting my people to you. And to prove that he has been forgiven, Jesus entrusts his people to him. And that demonstrates what Jesus does here. Not only is he a little bit of Jesus delegation, but he's also showing Peter that he truly is forgiven. And despite what's happened, he is truly trusted and he can go on there. And of course, Peter goes on to live a wonderful, glorious ministry. And of course, inevitably to die by crucifixion, which is what that's referring to then, to glorify God. So 3 times he denied Jesus, but Jesus gives him the opportunity 3 times to get it right. And then Jesus trusts him and shows he trusts him by trusting his flock to him. Isn't that lovely? And as I say, it shows us that in the presence of Jesus, we can truly be ourselves, despite everything, because we can know, like Peter did, that we are truly and unconditionally loved. And the affirmation he gave to Peter, he gives to us today. But then there's this, that's a lovely picture, but then this lovely thing at the end, right at the very end of John's Gospel. John says, I suppose if all the works of Jesus were put down, all the books in the world would not contain them. And I think what John is saying here is, look, this is a fantastic story, but you ain't seen nothing yet, There's so much more I could have told you. Jesus is an amazing person. And I think what it's saying here is this is not everything. There's more, And I think like with the Alpha Course, I don't give everybody all the answers. I want people to be hungry because there's so much more. And I hope that through these Bible talks, I can get you on fire for the Bible, wanting to hear the word of God and realizing just what a fantastic book it is and what you're hungry for more. And what John is saying here is there's so much more to learn. And we've never got there. We've never arrived because there's always more to learn. There's more exciting things and God's always got more for us. So it's a lovely picture, this lovely picture of Jesus making breakfast with his disciples, these hungry, tired disciples on the shore of the Sea of Galilee. And isn't it wonderful that Peter, even though he'd fouled up, and he fouled up big time, Jesus gives him the opportunity to get it right, and also shows that he's forgiven by saying to him, feed my sheep. And isn't it fantastic? But even though all the amazing things that we've heard about in the Gospel of John, there's so much more. And John says, all the books in the world could not contain what Jesus has done. So a great adventure, and one for us which goes on this life and into eternity. There's so much more. God bless you. Have a lovely day. My next talk here will be on Monday morning, and hope to see you over the weekend on